reason to tune in to DLC. Woo! Especially if you are one of our geeks in sneaks using this podcast to power you through a workout or a run. Or hey, maybe you're walking the dog. Maybe you're doing chores. Maybe you're mowing the lawn. Maybe you're just outside lounging in that summertime weather. Whatever the case, we're going to be in your ear holes for 90 plus minutes of gaming goodness because DLC is your downloadable commentary for the week delivered the way we love it to be. And that is completely free thanks to our patrons at patreon.com/DLC pod. They bring the show to you, make it possible for us to continue after 8 long years of doing this show. And hey, they get some cool stuff for their efforts as well, including video versions of the show, ad-free versions of the show, and a bonus show called Paid DLC, which I have to say, last week's episode, by all accounts, was a banger. And folks have told us they have loved the fact that we have added our friend Lana Bashinsky to the show. Lana coming on almost every episode of the Paid DLC show now. Almost every one. Our semi-regular third chair. She's awesome, and we had so much fun laughing it up with her last week. If you haven't heard that episode, you got it. You got to check it out. And you can at patreon.com/DLC pod. DLC, of course, the show all about games in their many forms. Games played on desktops, laptops, and consoles. Also games that involve dice, luck, and cardboard. I'm your host, Jeff Cannata, the spell with 2 N's and 1 T. And I am joined, as always, by my friend / co-host / nemesis. The guy who, if you're watching the video version, looks like he's got a little suntan. Mr. Christian Spicer. Hello, Christian.
Yeah, I also have like a weird collared shirt on, and so like it goes lower than normal. So this is just my usual farmer's tan that you're seeing, but you can see where it ends. I'll button it up a little bit. But hey, it's summertime, you know. Fresh Prince is out there doing his summertime grooves, and Will Smith is hitting people. But that doesn't detract that summertime is a banger of a song. And Jeff, you might think, oh, well, hype train's over. Everything's done. We're in the dog days of summer. We are not.
We're not?
We're not? There are still... No, dude, I'm telling you, this week, we got at least one game that is a banger. And I'm so excited to talk to you about it.
If it's not 2022, if there's not a game coming out every week that is a Game of the Year contender. That is, I guess, the new norm. And we'll get into it. We're going to talk games. We're going to talk news. And we have an awesome guest to do it with. You know that DLC always stands for your downloadable Cannata and your downloadable Christian. But this week, I am so excited because once again, DLC stands for Developer Living in Cincinnati, because we have the founder of Gylee Games. Our friend, Mr. Chris Bergman, is back. Hey, Chris.
Hey, nerds. How you guys doing, man?
Oh, so mean to start.
Oh, come on. It's always a term of endearment between us boys.
I have had a very long day. Went a big, long hike with the family, put together a table.
God, you're living in Colorado real hard.
Hard. Well, yes, mountain life, baby. There's barely any air. It's a wonder I haven't passed out yet.
You built a table on your hike. So listeners, they should know, like Jeff straight up lumberjacked it. He took his family out for a picnic. They hiked, they chopped a tree, he shaved it.
You guys haven't done table hiking? Come on, table hikes are the best. I was told not to ask you about your forthcoming game.
Go ahead.
But I'm sure we will find out more when it gets closer. Development continues apace, I expect.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've already mentioned it before. So the game's called Rah Rah Boom. It's a 4-player co-op beat 'em up about ninja cheerleaders from outer space. It'll be coming out sometime next year. We have a lot of content coming really, really soon. I can't wait to share it with all you guys. And it's been a ride, man. Happy to talk about sort of the process of development and you know what's happened thus far in vague terms without talking about the game. But yeah.
Well, we will also certainly have you back when you're able to talk more specifically about the game. We can't wait to hear more about it. And what you said so far makes me excited. So
I mean, it's very important to mention that Christian's a writer on the game as well.
What?
All right,
What?
did I out you?
What? I'm excited. I'll tell my kids. No, I don't talk about the game because I don't want to be the one that ever gets in trouble. But it's I'm very excited. It's real good. But I was going to wait to do all my disclosures later. But now, since you said things, I will say it's real good, and I'm very excited. And what I was going to tell people is, while Chris might not say things, their social media accounts post some pretty good stuff, where you can get some behind the scenes, fun web comics, updates about the game.
Yeah,
I like
it's
it.
been
I like
interesting.
your social.
Somehow this has turned into a commercial in front of my eyes.
It's been interesting because like we don't want to, there's a bunch of stuff that we can't show in regards to sort of the art, the animation, video, all that stuff. And so it was like, hey man, this is going to take us 2 years to get this thing done. What do we talk about on those socials? And so what we started to do is we do a weekly webcomic of just the antics that happen at Gylee Games, and they're pretty funny. Our production artists make them. They're brilliant, wonderful webcomic people in their own right. So please go check those out. Yeah.
Very cool. And how would they do that?
Go to GylieGames.com, go to Twitter and Instagram at Gylee Games. Those are your best spots for sure.
Awesome. And lastly, please know that unless Chris is on the show, I'm definitely not going to talk about it at all, because I don't want to be the one that messes up. Like the CEO and founder can mess up, but people, patrons, fans,
I'm still going to have people mad at me. Don't get me wrong.
I'm not saying crap about this game until it's out, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, here we go. Now we can talk about it.
Well, I can't wait to hear more and find out how I will be a part of the game. And so, no, I'm just kidding.
Game number 2, man. Game number 2 for sure. Game number 1's an all-female cast. So,
you
we did
clearly
that.
haven't heard my falsetto.
Yeah, we did that specifically to exclude you. I want to be clear about that.
Well done. No, it worked. All right, let's get into it. Let's start the show the way we always do, with Story of the Week.
Story of the week, it's the story of the week. Story of the week, it's the story of the week.
Story of the Week is the part of the show where we make our case for the most important stories that happen in the world of games this week. You can always submit stories by sending us an email to dlcfeedback@gmail.com. You can also send us comments, questions, anything you'd like us to know. We love hearing from you, even your own reviews. If you'd like to get those onto the show, we'd love finding out about games that maybe we missed. dlcfeedback@gmail.com is where you do that. Also, we have really cool communities. You can find us on Discord at 5x5DLC on Discord. Fun folks hanging out, talking about games there. Also, our subreddit is 5x5dlc.reddit.com. You can also check us out there. We love folks joining the community. But Chris, you are our guest, so you get first pick of stories. What would you consider to be your story of the week?
So before I get into my story of the week, I do have to say that we were driving down to our cabin this weekend, and I was listening to the last episode of DLC to make sure I didn't screw this up too bad. And I caught my 10-year-old son, Guy, of Gylee, singing along to Story of the Week. I feel like that's like jamming just so hard.
Love
and so
it.
I want to put this out there to the DLC audience. Someone please make a house remix that I can DJ with, please, because I feel like that's going to slam at PAX.
That's amazing. I guess I shouldn't say. There's something kind of brewing about that stuff that I can't say, but I want to say. But let's just say that Sean Madigan has ideas about.
Ooh, do I get to hear it off air?
I will tell you that. Yes, you can. I'll tell you off air. I will tell you this on air. The week not too long ago, where I trolled Christian and played the Jeff Was Right instead of the Story of the Week jingle. Several emails saying you broke my children's hearts because they couldn't sing along with the Story of the Week jingle. So you are not alone, Chris. Or your children are not alone.
You've conditioned us, Jeff. You've conditioned us with your incredible hosting, your well-paced, usual intros, outros. Like, we are all Pavlovian. And then you go and just rub my face in being wrong. And it kills kids, Jeff. It kills their hearts. It breaks them. It's your fault.
Can't make an omelet. You know what I'm saying? All right. Chris,
story of the week.
What is your story of the week?
Okay, so I got a spicy one, boys. And this is stuff that's sort of near and dear to my heart currently. So along with running Gylee Games, I'm also a general partner at the Fund Midwest, which is a venture capital fund. We invest into tech startups. Most recently invested in Playbyte and Crowd Control, which are two great awesome, amazing, wonderful companies. And I get at least 2 pitches a week involving Metaverse and NFTs. And I literally just want to talk about this because I'm genuinely curious to hear your guys' opinions. Opinion. So PlayStation, Microsoft, Epic, Unity, and more form the Metaverse Standards Forum. I found this really interesting and unusual and kind of buried in the news cycle, by the way. Like I found it on gamesindustry.biz, which is where like I sort of live and breathe and steal content. So anyway, it's been interesting. So several major games and technology firms have come together to form the Metaverse Standards Forum, a new group dedicated to setting the standards for this growing space. From the game space, founding members include Sony Interactive, Microsoft, Epic, Unity, Meta, and NVIDIA. What's interesting, though, some absences there: Apple, Roblox, and Niantic, which I also find interesting. And in a statement, they said, open to any organization at no cost, the forum will focus on pragmatic, action-based projects such as implementation, prototyping, hackathons, plug fests, and open source tooling to accelerate the testing and adoption of Metaverse standards, while also developing consistent terminology and deployment guidelines. What do you guys think?
Well, it sounds pretty vague at the moment, but I like it in concept, right? The idea here is that, I mean, first we need a definition of the metaverse, because I think a lot of people use that term for a lot of different things, but
some people don't even know what the difference between Web 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0 are. You know, there are just people out there, just total idiots. I don't know any of them personally, but...
I mean, if we're talking about the metaverse being virtual space, if we're talking about interactive ways of dealing with a virtual world that is beyond a 2-dimensional screen that we stare at, that we've been staring at for the last 40 years plus, then I think it is actually quite useful to come up with a set of standards, terminologies, and guidelines to how this new interaction is going to be presented to consumers. Somebody that was on very much enthusiastically on the cutting edge of VR as it was rolling out in its early days and continues to be, it has very much been the Wild West as far as like what works, what doesn't. You know, people were throwing up at the beginning, you know, getting nauseated and all these things. And we learned things. You know, we learned standard practices, best practices. We learned how to minimize that to a large degree, to make that nearly unheard of. You know, some folks, you know, some games, some experiences still cause that kind of thing. That's just one example. But there's a whole wide variety of things that could benefit from all the biggest players, you know, a lot of these big names.
I mean, it's both huge engines, right? Like
exactly.
Unity and Unreal are on board.
Right. So,
and these are companies that have giant asset stores already, which is essentially its own metaverse in some right.
Yeah. And I think, you know, it remains to be seen what will come of this. I think it's interesting that the way that they express their action in this arena is that they are going to be iterating. It's like, hey, let's do hackathons. Let's do all this prototyping. Let's just throw a lot of stuff at the wall and see what sticks. I think that's actually pretty awesome. And it feels like a ground up, you know, a grassroots style. I mean, this isn't grassroots companies, but you know what I'm saying? It's not a top down imposed on terminology, etc. It's ground up. It's like, let's find out what works. Let's just make a lot of stuff and see what works and pull the best from that. That's very encouraging to me. The negative side, the unknown negative side, is like, what are they deciding? You know, what are these giant corporations deciding right now? But I'm curious what you think of it, Chris. Clearly you brought it up and you seem to be, you know, interacting with this much more on a daily basis than we are.
Yeah, to immerse, unfortunately. So what I love about the announcement, there's no messaging around NFTs. There's no messaging around blockchain. I think the forum in and of itself is genuinely seeing this as like, these are assets that are going to be transferable across different platforms. And like, if this is ever going to happen, people seem to want it. If this is ever going to happen, we all have to collaborate and cooperate and figure out how to do this together. Right. That is awesome and amazing. And like, IKEA is one of the people that is in the forum, which I found fascinating. Right. Yeah. So like, of course, if you're building furniture, you want to make sure that your furniture exists in the metaverse with some sort of accuracy, and that you have ownership over the things that you create. Right. That is interesting to me. I'm still so, I think the metaverse is, I mean, Jeff, you and I have played WoW for 16, 17, 18 years. That was the metaverse for me, you know, back then. Like Azeroth was the first metaverse I participated in. Today, my kids play Fortnite, and thanks to John Drake, there's every Disney character in the world in Fortnite.
Thanks is like depending when. Like when my kids are like, when we get this one, it's thanks, John Drake. But then when they release the one I want, it's like, thanks, John Drake.
Yeah. But I see that. I mean, they go in there. We actually just booked a show. They're going to go see Deadmau5 because, like, you know, they're now interested in EDM and Marshmallow and all this other stuff because of the Fortnite metaverse. I mean that aspect of it is amazing and wonderful. What's also interesting is Roblox not being a part of it is a huge flag. I don't know if it's a green flag or a red flag, but it's a huge flag because Roblox has been like, we are a metaverse. Like, we want people to exist here. Right. Flaws and all, tons of flaws. And like, we're not willing to participate with these other people. We want to do it ourselves. And that do it yourself mentality is why. So for me personally, just to get spicy, why not? You know, Spicer's a part of this. We got to get spicy sometimes. To me, Web3 is AOL all over again. It is a bunch of walled gardens where everything is gate kept, you know, based on ownership and payment and all of that stuff. And I'm pretty down on those aspects of it. You know, but if there's an artist out there, a 3D modeler that's, you know, he's like eating ramen, he's in his freshman year of college, and he can go make assets for the metaverse and live off that for the next 4 years. That's interesting to me.
Well, Christian, you know, I if you're the spicy spice man, and I'm, you know, Pollyanna Canado over here, as I usually am.
What's that? Go ahead.
I will pitch to you the idealistic version of this, which is the pie in the sky, hope beyond hope version of a metaverse is that it truly is a metaverse. It is decoupled from any individual corporation and exists in a layer beyond any one particular IP holder or corporate interest. And maybe the fact that all these huge heavy hitters are banding together and trying to come up with some sort of standards means that that's the kind of thing that could be possible where, hey, yeah, if I have an IKEA chair in the metaverse, I want it to work in stuff that Sony makes and that Microsoft makes and that Epic makes. And it exists. There is this layer that is just sort of like the internet where, hey, I have a website. It works on the internet. The metaverse is like that, where it isn't the sole propriety of any one corporation or one product like Roblox, but it exists in a place that's kind of beyond all of that. And maybe that's possible if all these companies get together and say, hey, let's have a unified standard that works across all of this instead of us all coming up with our individual versions.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts that are kind of scattershot right now. It's kind of like a shotgun blast coming out as I kind of digest this. And this was recently announced also. This was probably something that's been in the works for a while, but that is very much new. The metaverse is still a thing that is trying to be defined partially by these groups. And this idea of this consortium coming together is also new, and I think trying to be defined what it is. And part of me feels like it is an effort to get ahead of the government regulations, looking back at like the MPAA or the ESA, and the idea of like, let us self-regulate. We'll figure this out. You don't need to tell us what we can do, government. We'll rate our own movies. We'll put ratings on video games. We have this group that does that. And it's kind of this loose, we're friends until we're enemies, kind of pact of competing companies trying to build something together. So I think that's interesting because at least here in the US, the government feels very behind on the ever increasing digital world and how things like copyright, IP, the idea of, it's not hard to pull up a C-SPAN recording and see someone saying like, so I go to GMAIL period COM, and where does that, and you're just like, oh my gosh, you are a senator, ma'am, like how is this, you don't know.
She's also 80,
but they all are and so like I think there's some part of that makes me skeptical. The other part I think that makes me skeptical is a lot of these not every company's in it, but a lot of these companies that are in it, it's like mass murderers get together to create friendship pact, and I'm like, you're all mass murderers. You don't have good interests in mind. I don't Wolf decides which sheep's clothing is most effective. I'm like, I don't know about that, Wolf. But my hope is that, and this is still barely happening, but my hope is that we can have, like you said, Jeff, some common standards where like the web, and it's not closed protocols and this, that, and the other. You can kind of just from anywhere go to anything, or in a real life application, smart home stuff. Smart home stuff is still a mess. And like they've been trying to get this consortium together that works, and now it's been delayed again. But like, oh, my doorbell doesn't talk to my thermostat, and my thermostat was bought by Amazon, but it no longer works with my Echo Show because it's newer amp, and like all that stuff is just a nightmare. And picturing that in this digital world in which we're supposed to live, if it doesn't all work together, it all falls apart, right? Like there needs to be those handshakes. So hopefully it can get there. But I also agree with what Chris was saying, that it does feel like right now, these initial stages, that the metaverse, it kind of feels like everybody wanting to claim their own thing because no one wants to repeat Apple getting the huge head start with digital music sales, or Netflix getting the whole head start where like they had every studio's content because they were the only one doing it. And now everybody's like, no. This is my garden. This is my garden. This is my garden. This is my garden. And all we do to work together is create the sidewalk where I go from garden to garden to garden. And that is less enticing to me.
Well, I mean, I think we all want, or at least I will say me, I want Ready Player One, right? I want the
the bad real life. That
we already have it. Hang on, we already have it. We already have Ready Player One. I can put in any disc and live in any world that I want to live in. I can download any game and go live in that world. All of that already exists.
Well, no, I don't think that's exactly what I mean. I mean, you have the version that is expressed in that science fiction book is I have one avatar who goes to all these different planets that are based on different IPs and is consistent throughout them, levels up, does things, gets stuff from here. I get a lightsaber from the Star Wars world. I get a DeLorean from the Back to the Future, whatever it is. They all work on my character. It's a one persistent universe. That,
I mean, you're describing Fortnite right now, by the way.
I am describing Fortnite and in a lot of ways, but I think that it's more robust.
So what's
than that,
missing?
right?
Like, what are they chasing? What are they chasing that doesn't exist yet? That's what I don't understand. Like everyone talks about Metaverse as though it's this leap in evolutionary sort of humanity, right? Mm-hmm. And like I don't get what that leap is. I don't understand what the gap that they're crossing that we haven't already crossed outside of sort of the NFT blockchain side of it, which is essentially a MySQL database anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, at least what I'm talking about isn't necessarily NFT blockchain ownership stuff.
Right. We're tabling that conversation.
We're tabling that conversation. Yes,
Thank God.
On the table that Jeff built during his hype.
Yeah.
Where we're Table hike.
Table hike. To me, it's more this notion, the metaverse in relationship to something like a Fortnite is much more different kinds of experiences and a sort of replacement. Boy, that's the wrong way to say it.
Yep.
A much more immersive world than Fortnite offers. Right? Fortnite is a game that you go into and you can do a lot of different modes in that game, but it's a game, right? I think what everybody's envisioning is something more along the lines of what you get in science fiction, which is a place you can go and be, it's
but it's still escapism. It never it's not going to solve the hierarchy of needs, right? Like,
no, I don't think that anybody's claiming that it's going to replace the hierarchy of needs. No.
Oh, you haven't hung out with Web3 people enough.
Well, it's a special kind of
right now,
Kool-Aid
Chris,
that they're drinking.
Right now, someone is about to get a lot of funding from you all because they heard this and they're writing you the best pitch email ever that answers all of this. I'm just going to sit back and be like, dang, Tina did it. Okay, here it is.
I mean, I think there's a Venn diagram for Web3 and Metaverse, but I don't think it's.
But it's still
circle.
Escapism, right? Like you're still just solving escapism.
Unless it is that. Oh, there was a story we didn't talk about last week, but because it's a small sample size, I didn't want to carry it over necessarily to this week, but I think it's interesting. It's escapism unless it's virtual meetings and it's where you go to school and it's where you play tennis. It's like literally where you live, aside from your 4 squares and a roof, basic needs, but it's intercourse, it's real friendship, it's everything except for the bare
food, shelter.
That
minimum.
Thing you were talking about.
But that's so much of life already, though, exists outside of those essentials. I think.
But I don't think there's anything in this news story that's claiming it's going to replace the hierarchy of needs, right? It's literally saying in this new form of escapism, let's come up with some shared terminology and practices, right?
Yeah, which is true, which is required, right? Like we all know that you say it as GIF.
I do, but crazy people say it as GIF.
No, it's Jay-Z is the word you're looking for. Jay-Z people, not Jay-Z. Jay-Z. It's how you pronounce it. It's weird. Hot Slag did point out in the chat that I wanted to surface this as part of the wolf in sheep's clothing. I loathe is a strong word. I loathe that Facebook changed their name to Meta and talks about the meta. Like, I want Google to change their name or create a company called Verse just to be like, you know what? Shut up. Now, it's not your verse. We're Verse. You might be Meta. We're Verse. Like the idea that it's their verse because they changed their name to a thing that was already an established. Anyway, hi. How we doing?
Okay, so I have a personal sort of anecdote for that because I see what's happening there, and we did it. So I had a company called Chore Monster, which was gamification of chores for kids. We then started making a bunch of other apps, and I noticed people writing about us in the press, and they were saying they're a part of family tech or family technology. And I looked and I could buy the URL familytech.com for $5,000. So I went and bought the URL and then rebranded as Family Tech because I decided I wanted to own the entire category as opposed to one individual brand, which is exactly what Facebook is doing before we sold it to Verizon. We had a bunch of other plans for that company that we got sold too early to execute on, but it's so interesting how they want to own Metaverse. Like that is the reason that they changed their name, is they want to be the owners of it. That's why Oculus doesn't exist anymore, which has got to be so. Do you guys remember us hanging out in Echo Park playing on the dev kit?
Yeah,
like the Kickstarter backed dev kit.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
man.
Well, I want to say also quickly, Chris, that you're not the only smart person. That Jeff and I also did that. It's why the show is called DLC, and we own the space of the term DLC in video games. No one else uses it for anything.
It is the best SEO we could have possibly ever done.
You guys came up first on my search on Patreon today when I finally decided to back you because I'm a terrible friend.
Well, we almost didn't have a guest this week because you hadn't.
Patreon is our test of friendship. That's how it works.
Sorry, Lana. I don't listen to your stuff. I'll get to
it. It's all right. Okay. That's a big topic, and I'm glad you brought it up. And I think way too early to know if this is a bunch of wolves. I mean, I guess it clearly is wolves in sheep's clothing, but it's too early to know how many sheep those wolves are going to eat.
They'll all be consumers. That's what we know for sure.
Yeah.
Oil companies get together to create environmental You're like, okay, yeah, sure you do.
I mean, it's not quite that, but
no,
but
it's not. It's not.
I understand. I mean, I think honestly, just to put a button on this, honestly, this is better than none of these companies got together to create any shared like this is a good thing, right? If good things come of it remains to be seen, but it is a good thing, and I wish Apple would be part of it because I think Apple's going to be a big. I fear Apple will be like, no, our metaverse is over here on this thing over here.
It's AOL, man.
Apple
it's
not
AOL.
play with other. Apple's never not played well with other operating systems, Jeff. I don't know what you're talking about.
All right, Christian, what is your story of the week?
My story of the week. I'm not ready to let go of summer is my story of the week. And my story of the week is that after all the big stories have kind of come and gone, we got one more Summer of Games. And we got the announcement of Hyenas, which is made by Creative Assembly from Sega. And it is a shooter. I mean, it's not Fortnite, but it's like Fortnite, It's a shooter where it takes place in 0G, and you're robbing mall. It's like in space, and like there's these mall freighters where the rich live. It's got like this, dystopic sci-fi layer on top of it, of course. And you play as pirates that go into these futuristic space malls and steal their trinkets, which of course are all Sega little things because Sega makes the game. But I'm excited about this game, one, because Creative Assembly I think is one of the most fascinating devs around, where they worked on, I think it's Sonic, I want to get it right, it's like the Sonic Advanced port was them, like Sonic Advanced Collection was Total War, Alien Ice, so it's like 2D Sonic games they did way back when. They did a soccer game way back when, then Total War, the Sonic Classics Collection, that's what it was. Then also Alien Isolation, which again is a very different genre. Halo Wars 2. Like, they've covered kind of the breadth of genres over time. And now for a while, they have been the Total War RTS studio who's made some really, really good RTS games. And now they're going to another shooter and kind of doing this, what seems like, Fortnite-esque multiplayer, get loot, have cool avatars for your characters, multiplayer shooter. And the 0G concept, I think, is fascinating because it's something that Cliffy dabbled with Lawbreakers. While Lawbreakers didn't catch on, I thought it was a fascinating part of that game. Which was where Lawbreakers, the name meant. It's like breaking the rules of gravity. It was like one of the meanings of that. And I thought this trailer, while it didn't necessarily show actual gameplay per se, because like there was one segment that looked like a 2D side scroller, and I was like, wait, what? But it was very stylish, and I like that Creative Assembly is doing new, different things. And I could use another. I hope it's good. And then I could use another game like this. I always like competition in that space.
Very funny to me that you said they're responsible for some of the best RTS games and also Halo Wars 2.
I didn't mean it that way. I think we have it on this show. I liked Halo. Maybe it's Halo Wars 1. I put a lot of time into one of them, and I don't remember which one.
Super memorable. Anyway, no, I don't mean to slag on Creative Assembly. I agree with you. Alien Isolation, not my type of game, but very cool and very interesting. And yeah, this trailer is pretty awesome. Looks all in engine. I don't know how much of it is representative of actual gameplay, but kind of cool, very stylized. Interesting though, you brought it up as, not wanting it to be an end of Summer of Games quite yet. I feel like this is a game that would have been announced in Keely's presentation and we would never have mentioned it.
Oh, I like this stuff. I like the visual flair. Like if you're watching the video version, running part of the trailer now, there's like a Richard Nixon mask. It's got like neon drenched streets and like zany weapons. It looks like
like Apex Legends meets Borderlands.
Or like what's that game? Payday?
Yeah, a
The
little
heist.
because of the Nixon mask.
Like there's attitude for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
One guy's wearing a VR headset while running around in it. Like, again, I don't know what it will be when you're actually playing it, but like for a tone and style trailer, I would love to see this movie. You know, like this visual language speaks to me big time.
Yeah, I was just bringing it up in the sense that it's pretty shrewd to hold your cards a little longer and wait till everybody has played their hand, and then you go, hey, my hand may not have been the winning hand, so everybody's looking at it now, right? Because I feel like if this had been just another in the stream of games that had been announced during the last couple of weeks, maybe it certainly wouldn't have gotten its own segment on our show. I'll say that, which is every dev's goal, I would guess.
But it would have gotten highlighted as it was a space game, but it's bright. So it would have been a nice mix in those other space games that were depressing.
I'm surprised it's not.
Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
I'm just surprised it's not like Game Pass day one. Sort of like it looks like it should be.
Well, we don't know yet. 2023. 2023.
Yeah.
So it could still get a deal like that.
I'm saying my indication is that it wasn't in the Summer Games Fest.
Correct.
Because if it were Games Pass day one, it would have been in there.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Sorry to peek behind the curtain.
They may have a deal yet to be determined. But what was I going to say?
Your question to you is, or something like that.
Yes. My question to you, Christian, is Zero-G fun?
I don't know. I mean, I think it can be. In single-player games, I really enjoy it. Titanfall 2, it's not Zero-G per se, but the wall, it gave you that.
Yeah, well, it's like has segments of that.
Right.
It's not the whole game.
And the one future Advanced Warfare, the one future Call of Duty single-player campaign that was incredible that they refused to admit was good or do anything with.
Lone Echo is amazing, and Echo. What's the multiplayer? Echo. Can't remember the name of the multiplayer, but it's cool. But it's also VR. It's different. So I don't know. I don't know if I've ever had a Zero-G game
I feel like
this.
Lawbreakers would have figured it out if they had enough runway and enough leash. I feel like they would have figured it out.
Well, yeah, it unfortunately, and I don't know what Hyenas will necessarily be. I think Lawbreakers, while doing a lot of cool things, was also bound by being an older style of fast twitch, run and gun, Unreal Tournament shooter style game that.
But that's what I mean. If they had enough time and enough money, that would have gone away, and they would have found that lane. I think that's like you look at games like Rainbow Six, right? Like when that game came out, versus like there's this sort of definitely like a group of games that it takes them a couple of years to sort of figure out, especially, and it's all in that lane. It's all in like very multiplayer-y sort of, they're trying different game design elements, seeing what works, what doesn't. And I mean, the upside is like you get a bunch of data of like from your players, what is happening. And then you can make decisions. And it is a games as a service. Like what's unfortunate about Lawbreakers is I think that was a games as a service game that never had the capital to go be a games as a service game, because you're going to lose money for the first 2-3 years.
Yeah. Well, I also think the data they got was that very few people were playing it. I think, it helps to have a runway with people on it,
But Fortnite was the same, man. Do you guys
really
remember?
Yeah, I guess.
Save the World was not a hit. We have an episode of this show, I think, Jeff, where you're like, I'll remind you in case you forgot that you talked about it already.
My recollection is that I liked the Fortnite wave shooter game. I remember really enjoying that. Being like, wow, this is a really cool wave shooter. Huh?
You were one of the few. We'll say that.
And then they changed it, and I was like, what is this garbage? What is this?
That was a fun peek behind the curtain. Speaking of peeking behind the curtain, when Epic was like, we're going to donate our first 2 weeks, revenue to Ukraine. And I was like, you donated how much? That was how many days?
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Good on that, man. Good on that.
Yes.
Anyway, Hyenas, again, another interesting tidbit, coming in 2023, and also still coming to PS4, Xbox One. We're in how many years since the new consoles have launched, and we're still getting cross-platform releases targeted for not even this year, target for 2023.
That's what makes me think that this is going to be a more games as servicey game in order to capture that bigger audience. I think it's kind of what they need to be at this point. But yeah.
And it's 4-player teams. Is that correct?
It's 3 players on a team, but 4 teams at a time, which is interesting. Yeah,
at launch, and then they'll come out with the battle royale mode and the solo mode. And
yeah, we'll see.
Gamers want it, man.
All right. My story of the week is one. Actually, Christian, you texted me this, which I think it's worth discussing. I think it's a really interesting thing. Not exactly information that's new this week, it just confirmed. And I think first time I really thought it through, because this is information about Overwatch 2, which we know now is coming this year. Officially, Overwatch 2 is going to subsume Overwatch 1. It is going to absorb it as it continues amoeba-like through the cosmos.
It's Kirby. It's Kirby Big Mouth mode. It's just kind of
you're a couch and Kirby is eating you. No, the idea here is that there will be no Overwatch 1. It will not be a game that exists concurrently to Overwatch 2. When Overwatch 2 launches on October 4th, it will replace the current live service for Overwatch 1. And since there is no not live service for Overwatch, that's it. That's the game. Now, how is that going to work exactly? Well, according to this AMA that happened this week, any cosmetics that you purchased in Overwatch 1 and any loot boxes that you still own will carry over. The loot boxes, since there will be no loot boxes in Overwatch 2, the loot boxes will open themselves and reveal their contents, and those contents will stick to your account and move forward into Overwatch 2. So no loot boxes, but any loot boxes you've been holding on to for a rainy day, guess what? It's raining.
It's raining. Yeah.
So I think this points to, rumors that we heard over and over again about how Activision was pressuring the team at Blizzard to have a numbered sequel to Overwatch. They didn't want to do that. They just wanted to have Overwatch be Overwatch, and it be, as you were talking about, Chris, a live service game that evolves and changes over time and becomes this new thing. And that's just the way it moves forward. Well, Activision says, yeah, but when we sell numbered sequels to that other thing that we sell, that Call of Duty thing that we make, it makes us lots and lots and lots of money. So let's put a number on the end and sell it in a box again. And they agreed, and or were forced to agree. And so that's why we got Overwatch 2. But now it's sort of, we're seeing the results of that. It's like, we don't want to make, this isn't 2 games. This is just the next progression of Overwatch. So I want to get your reaction to this, Chris. Do you think this is a bad thing for the community? I mean, the purported goal here is to not splinter the player base, right? Not to have people who just hang out and play the first one.
Yeah, I think that's the only way you do that is by forcing everyone over. I mean, it's interesting. It's a free to play game, right? Free to play.
It is free to play. Yeah, okay. It will be free to play.
So it's just a patch. It's a patch.
2 is free to play. 1 was not. 1 was a retail box.
Yeah, and everyone got their $60 and feels great about it. What blows my mind, no joke, I am mind blown about the amount of effort it has to take to transfer all the skins over, all of the assets, like give people the fact that they're taking the time and energy to give people a seamless transition from Overwatch 1 to 2 says everything about this game to me that actually makes me really excited about it. Right. I think that they're thinking critically about their player base and, where they've dropped off over time. Like there's, I don't know if you guys, you all, well, we played Overwatch 2 at BlizzCon, right? Christian, that was, I can't remember who that was with.
Yeah, we played the single, which is not part of this October, but in 2019,
where did that go?
It's still coming.
Who remembers?
Later.
Was that the before times? Probably.
Yeah.
But what that says is that the dev team is very clear that this is part of the roadmap to sort of what they wanted to Overwatch to be as a whole, in my opinion. I think initially, like, that $60 purchase kept people from playing the game in a way. Like we're going to see an influx. To your point, like, I think you're right, Jeff, in that, like, box copies and sequels are important to Activision in particular. But also, they aren't willing to let go of Warzone now. That's gone through 3 box copies and have another one coming next year, because they're seeing the data around sort of free-to-play games as a service games. They won't get, like, if you remember, Black Ops 4, I think, had a different battle royale name. I forget what it was. I'm sorry, I'm a bad gamer. But then they changed the brand. They watched everybody disappear, and then started Warzone, and then, you know, handed that off to different devs. Like, literally handed Warzone off to different devs, and kept that player base across and let them sort of live in it. And I think what you're seeing here is actually them serving the player base as opposed to anything else, because the amount of lift that they're doing to make that player base come in is just beyond ridiculous from a dev standpoint.
Yeah. Wild. I mean, a number of things I think worth underscoring here. One is wild to me that the $60 boxed game had the loot boxes and the free to play one doesn't.
Good on them, man.
Interesting.
Good on
right?
them.
I mean, it will have battle pass and cosmetics that you can purchase and stuff like that, but no loot boxes. Pretty cool. Another thing that's wild to me is that here is an example of a game that you could buy in a store and now does not exist. Right?
What's wrong with that?
Maybe nothing. A lot of folks get very up in arms about that notion. I would love to hear your perspective on defending that.
I want my Blockbuster in the Metaverse, man. I don't need it in IRL.
There you go.
I think what's wrong with that is how the game was positioned. And so I think it's like, imagine, you know, you go sit down to play Street Fighter 2 and all of a sudden you can't. Now you're playing Street Fighter Alpha. Great game. I love Alpha. I love the Alpha series. Great mug. Yeah. Different game. It's not the game. And this is it's what, 5v5 versus 4v4. And I think
6v6,
it's how
bud.
Okay, sorry.
Come on.
Activision is not my main focus recently. How they pitched the game. This Overwatch 1 was not pitched as this type of live service game. This also isn't being presented as a retooling or rebalance of Overwatch. It's like the messaging is all wrong for what they're trying to do.
Well,
I think
they're messing up with expectation, or they're messing up in regards to, like, player expectations.
Right. Or if you went to play Halo 2 with friends and then you couldn't. Now it's just Halo Infinite. And it's like, well, Halo Infinite's great. It's fine, but that's not what I sat down to play. And so there's this weird thing. Yeah, it's also not what you purchased.
But there's a lot of examples of that, right? It's just weird that this one seemed...
I don't know if there are a lot of examples of that. A game there's games that get turned off, which is sad.
Yeah,
but like
a lot of those.
It's like you don't, like, a game that you bought that became a fundamentally different game.
Yeah,
that's every games as a service game that exists. World of Warcraft.
Yes.
No, you can still play the original content.
The
the original content still exists.
No,
not necessarily. There's a lot of games where you could, I mean, Fortnite.
But that's not a purchase. That's not a purchase game.
Right. But there's a lot of games that you would purchase. Go ahead, Chris. You say it.
Yeah, they're going from a purchase game to a free-to-play game. And I understand the sort of ebb there, or the nit there, about going from a purchase to a free-to-play game. But, like, you still need it. If you bought Overwatch, you still did. If you're playing it on PlayStation, you still need PlayStation Plus. It's still required an internet connection. And on some level, if you are making a game that is not a contained narrative, it's got to change at some point, right? Like, you can only manage the live servers or sort of do live ops for an X amount of period of time. Great example of this, if I may. So Friday the 13th, Gun Media's game, right? Everyone loves it. It's a Game Pass hit, makes an insane amount of money.
Now it's the Quarry. It just changed. No, I'm just kidding.
But then they're managing live ops for this game that has hundreds of thousands of concurrent players at any given time. And then the courts get a hold of the IP and now they're not allowed to patch it because the license doesn't allow them to patch the game. So like, whose fault is that at that point, right? Like, they've had a 2-year lifespan on this game. That's a purchase game. Like Friday the 13th is a purchase game, and then there's this outside thing that makes it where like they can't. They're legally not allowed to patch the game anymore.
That's wild.
Well, and that, I mean, we could get, I don't want to spend too much time on this. In that example, not to focus too much on that. Sorry. In that example, though, the game is not getting worse than it was when you purchased it. When you purchased it, it is still that game. And so, yes, they can't update it, but
with the bugs, like they can't patch bugs, man.
Right, but when you bought it, they were there, so it's not the same. Quite,
Christian, again, to your point, though, this may just be a semantic thing because it's not like Overwatch transformed into Overwatch 2. Overwatch is gone.
Yeah,
Overwatch 2 is free, and you can play it though. It's not. It's a semantic argument. It's not like, oh, I turned on Overwatch and now it's Overwatch 2. That's not what happened. Overwatch, they shut it down. And they have this other thing that just happens to be free, and you can play it, and your stuff will carry over. But it's not like the game transformed into Overwatch 2.
Because that's also true.
I think that is a good way to put it or to look at it. I understand why they didn't, but yes, they are killing Overwatch and releasing this other game that has a lot of the same characters.
Right. And you get all your skins. You get everything that you spent money on outside of the base game. Like, that's crazy.
I mean, it's
a lot of dev work.
It's like, NFL 2K6 servers shut down. Please play NFL 2K9. You know what I mean?
And you can have all your sneakers come across.
Yeah. Just that one happens to be free. I don't know.
Right. We're getting ranty.
I honestly, Chris, I don't think yours is a very popular position. I think most people get very perturbed about this when they say, I walked into a store, I purchased a thing, I brought it home. Now it doesn't exist. I think that is something that people don't like. And I understand why they don't like it, but it's kind of the reality of digital content in this world that we live in now.
I just, like, if I go to a show, if I go experience a musical concert, like, I get it. I pay the money to go experience it. If I go watch a movie in the theater, I pay to experience those 2 hours.
Right. But that's not how people think about a box that they bring home from the store.
I know, but we got to level them up, man. That's why DLC exists.
I think the idea of like Street Fighter 2 becoming alpha is, something like that seems apt to me of like, it's a different thing. And yes, I know a lot of games change and update in big ways, but it feels like this is a misstep in messaging and not necessarily in giving players content in this new free-to-play game. But I do think it's a misstep in messaging that I think that could have been better served by, we are sunsetting Overwatch. We are releasing Overwatch 2 for free. If you were and we're sunsetting Overwatch, Overwatch will give it some time, right? Like October 2023, we're going to turn off the Overwatch servers. If you play Overwatch 2, which shouldn't be called Overwatch 2, if you play Overwatch New Dawn and you were an original Overwatch player, you will get all of your cosmetics from. And I think then it's like people are bummed that this game's getting turned off, but a celebration of this other thing. And I think this is,
I don't think that's not what they're saying. I think that is what they're saying.
It happens in October, and they just told you now. Yeah.
They're saying when Overwatch 2 launches on October 4th, it will be a replacement for the current live service. We're turning off that
3 months. Go.
We're turning on this one.
Yeah.
I'm curious what our listeners think, because I have a feeling most of them disagree with Chris and me.
I have a feeling most of them are no longer playing Overwatch.
Also true.
I think there's going to be a lot more people playing Overwatch 2 because it's free.
How many years until Big Daddy Bobby releases Overwatch Classic? You
mean Big Daddy Microsoft? You mean, is that what you mean?
Oh, yeah, maybe Big Daddy Phil, and we get Overwatch Classic.
Whichever Big Daddy you're into, All right. We got games to talk about. Let's get to the games that we have been talking about on the playlist.
Ooh, what you playing this week? Tell us. Ooh, what you playing this week? Tell us on the playlist.
Time to talk about the games that we have been playing. And Chris, you have been playing a game that both Christian and I have also been playing. It is, I think I don't think anybody pinned this as a big release of the year, but it has turned into a big release, I think, certainly of the summer. Neon White, which
Such a sleeper, man.
it's total sleeper. I mean, when this got announced, I thought, oh, cool, cards and first-person shooter, and discarding the card does something interesting. Well, that's clever and different and unique, and the aesthetic was kind of interesting. It certainly jumped out to me whenever it was at whatever show that they showed this thing the first time. But I didn't think it would be capturing the internet intelligentsia in the way that it seems to have. Are you a fan of Neon White?
Oh, very, very much. I mean, it feels like a gamer's game. Like I think it's worth starting there. So Neon White, developed by Angel Matrix. Ben Esposito's the director. He was the director of Donut County. I think that's an important distinction.
Yeah, it's basically the same game over again.
Yeah. And also Ben Esposito is one of the founder of Glitch City LA, which is also another one of my Patreons. Glitch City LA is a game dev co-op in Los Angeles and is phenomenal. Some of the Rah Rah Boom people are there as well. But published by Annapurna, which it completely meshes with Annapurna games. So gosh, I don't want to be the one to say what it is.
It's basically speed running platformer,
first person.
There's shooting, but shooting is not the primary interaction you do with the world. The primary interaction you do with the world is platforming, and the way you do that is you collect cards that are interspersed throughout the world that have two functions. One of the functions is to be a weapon, most often, and the other is in discarding that card and throwing that weapon away, basically. It has a different, unique function. Sometimes it allows you to do a super jump. Sometimes it allows you to throw a grenade that'll do something interesting. But basically, the discarding of the card, the giving up of the primary function, allows a secondary function. But the goal throughout the game is to get through these platforming levels as quickly as you can to post your time to a leaderboard. But in order to get through them, you not only have to get to the end, which is usually, in some precarious location that involves jumping and leaping and double jumping and all that stuff, but also you have to eliminate all the demons on the level first. So sometimes,
because you're a demon in hell.
Yes, you're trying
That's
to
also important.
Get to heaven. I think something like that. The story, not my favorite part of the game. I'll be honest.
Can we all just, like, everyone listening, can you just feel thankful for how good Jeff is at explaining games? Because man, it seems easy until you're on here and you're just like, yeah, I don't want to explain this game. Jeff, please explain the game. And he does he murders it first time out. So that's the game. The visual design oh my goodness, man. Like it's some of the most unique visual outside of the anime sort of cutscenes. Let's put those aside for a second. But like the character design, it's essentially a white game with splashes of color, in a way that it just visually pops over and over and over again. It also, back to the heaven and hell thing, like one of the things that are reminding me of is Good Omens, which is a book by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett, that like just that sense of humor of like just super irreverent about sort of heaven and hell and all tongue in cheek and just very charming in that way. Anime as hell also. Anime as heck, is what I meant to say there, guys. In regards to sort of the character interactions. One of the things that I love about the game, so it's a speed running, first person game. It felt a lot like Portal in the way that you're sort of figuring out your patterns and how you're kind of solving the puzzle of getting there as quickly as possible. And then Tony Hawk. So Portal meets Tony Hawk is what I'm going to go with there on that. Absolutely love it. So curious to hear what you guys think.
Christian, I know you've been a big fan of it too.
I love it. I'm playing primarily on my Steam Deck, which is a fantastic way to play this game. It's on PC and Switch, and I've heard the Switch version runs great. I also need to give a shout out to Brendan last week, who just talked about so many great games that when he talked about Neon White, I was like, well, this is just another great game. And I feel like he did a great job selling it, but he also could have sold. I texted, I was like, dude, you undersold me on Neon White. You talked about so many good games. It got lost in the shuffle of great games. And it is phenomenal. On their podcast, they spent more time talking about it. And I was like, yes, this is it. This is the game. It also is like Jumping Flash, if you remember way back when. And there's
one of my favorites, man.
Old poll right there.
Well, they've talked about that. It kind of started as a version of that, and as a mech game where there was a button that would eject you out of your mech that they just kind of turned off, and then it became this Neon White, the version that we're playing today.
Jumping Flash, April 28th, 1995.
PlayStation
launch game.
Yeah, it's and I think I was super not interested in this when they showed it as a card game because those aren't my thing. And I was like, what's a CCG with the first person shooter? This, I don't know. This doesn't, but I don't know why they went with that card aesthetic, because when you have the weapon, it displays as a card on the bottom of your HUD, but like you see a weapon in space, like
it could have been anything. It didn't
I
have
think
to be
it's the
cards.
discarding thing. I think the discarding thing just makes sense when you like, I'm discarding this.
Yeah, because then one of them is like an automatic gun, and then but when you discard it, it doesn't show the card land on the ground. You shoot an orb that then blows up and like basically rocket jumps you. So it's not as if you never see the card except for when you pick it up and then in your lower HUD. As you use it, it is a gun or a bomb or a dash or all these things that it ends up being. But what I think makes the game so phenomenal is the way the mechanics start to layer on top of each other and the way that they built this game to work as a bumper trigger button game, where jump is on the triggers. You can swap cards by using your bumper. You fire by using a trigger, and then you use the alt by doing a bumper. So in a world where not all consoles have back paddles, they've created this first-person game that keeps your thumbs on the sticks because it is fast-paced. But I don't want
Classic
people to think,
BTB, bumper trigger bumper, is what you're saying. It's like it's a PTP, it's a BTB game.
We should TM that.
Classic
that
BTB.
Before somebody else does. And it is a speedrunning game, but it's also, and there are times that are set as goals, but it's a replay a level game. Someone in chat said it looks like a 3D Sonic. And I do think there's part of this that, Neon White is the best 3D Sonic they've ever made, because the first time you run through a space, I won't get the goal, but I figured out the level and I know what to do. And then that unlocks, you get to watch your ghost. So you get to compete against yourself. And then as you go through it again, you get the tips. The game will tell you like, hey, look over here, idiot. And you're like, oh, I can skip this whole course by doing this. And then you unlock gifts. So then when you're trying to find gifts, because it has this
Gifts. Yeah, like present.
Present.
It's not like you were saying like an image file.
No, not the
Graphics
peanut
information format.
butter. Not the peanut butter, sorry. And because it has a layer of like a Persona-esque, Catherine-esque, anime dating sim light kind of layer on top of it. But finding those presents in the level, you're not speedrunning at all. That is straight up more akin to Portal, where you're not going through teleportation devices, but you are hacking this level. Like you see it, and it's like that thing is right there, which is a place that is impossible to get to. The developers messed up. Yep, this level and this course is, they are, oh, never mind. I just do this in this card, and I find this card, and I take the level to this. And there's no time limit on that, right?
Yeah,
You're
that's my favorite
racing.
part of the game, honestly.
Oh, but as these levels, I don't know how far you all are into it, but the way it, and it's trite to say this, but like the way it teaches through gameplay, the new mechanics as it layers them on, even later levels, I've had encounters where I'll hit a card and it will still pause and be like, this is what this card does. And that gets me excited, where I'm like, oh, heck yes. Because I know 3 levels later, I'm going to be using that card in concert with a card from level 1 and a card with, and it's, shift, bump, drop. And it's a type of game that now as I started playing it, it needs to be my main game because it's Rock Band-esque, right? Like the muscle memory.
It's all rhythm.
And the rhythm of it. Yeah. I don't want to go back to like, oh, maybe I will finish this one quest from Witcher 3. I haven't. No, all other games off the table as I'm jamming my way through Neon White. I am in love with this game.
I have been having fun with it as well. I'm not quite as high on it as you guys, but mostly that's a me thing in the sense that I'm never a fan. I just don't like speed running. and I don't like the fundamental feeling of racing against the clock. It is that kind of anxiety is not pleasurable to me. That like, I didn't do it. Oh, I got to try it again. And then doing a thing, 400 times to get it right, to perfect the thing has never been my
Takes
particular.
you that many tries? Oh, it's only 2. I'm just kidding.
I'm like silver. That's fine. Bronze. Okay, moving on.
I mean, thank God there's not leaderboards, right? Like,
No, there is. For some
there are
reason,
leaderboards.
For some
Between
reason,
us.
the only person on
Yeah.
on my friend's leaderboard. I don't know why this is. But the only person on my friend's leaderboard when I was playing it was Justin McElroy. And I was like, if I beat Justin McElroy, I was very happy. But I also wasn't going to play the level 400 times to beat Justin McElroy. I was like, oh, I did it in 45 seconds and he did it in 13. Guess he's just going to have to take this one. I'm not getting to 13, ladies and gentlemen. But there's a number of times where I beat Justin McElroy, and I'm very happy about that.
I think that is like as you play as the concept of the game, which I won't spoil as the layers peel off. But the very beginning premise is that you are a sinner who's given an opportunity to remain in heaven by cleaning up demons from the low levels of heaven. And that's kind of your task. And by doing that, you get to remain in heaven instead of suffering. That's the
Suicide Squad.
Yeah. Yes. But the devil in those details is that it is like, I can play this. A run's only 30 seconds. Cut to 2 hours later, I have that same run down to 11 seconds, but it was 2 hours of me playing to get to 11 seconds. Meanwhile, my kids are like, I'm hungry. And I'm like, so am I. Let's go.
That's just not something I love in games. Like that, what you just described is not something I've ever gotten a lot of pleasure out of like honing, perfecting, doing the same thing over and over until I get it right. Like that's not.
You didn't rollerblade, Jeff.
I roller skated. Yeah. I roller skated quite a lot. But there was always something new around the bend.
They are. We're getting a little peek of them. The Flexione there.
My favorite parts of Neon White are the puzzle solving parts of it. Like the portal side of it is super pleasurable and super fun for me. Is how do I get there? What do I do? What combination of cards? What do I have to hold on to? What do I have to discard? Oh, that little nook over there corner I didn't even see. Oh, I can jump over there. Oh, I can skip this whole part if I do that. Oh, but there's a demon back there. I can spin in the air and shoot it as I go this direction. Like all that fun stuff is very, very cool and very well done. It's just I'm not the guy who's going to try time after time after time shaving seconds off my time. I just not something I like doing.
Do you feel like the game's for you?
No, and that's fine. It's totally fine. I appreciate the game. The other thing is I'm not super into the narrative of it or the aesthetic, particularly like in the cutscenes and stuff. It's not. I'm not an anime guy either. It's definitely not a game that was made with me in mind, and that's fine. It didn't take me too long to go. That little thing in the upper left that lets me fast forward through the cutscenes. I'm going to try it. But it's fun because it's not like skip cutscene. It literally is like putting a VCR on fast forward. And it's funny where I go, okay, I'm going to put it on fast forward. Wow, it's still going. It's still going. It's there's a lot of done. Wow, it's still going. So
I mean, it's a small part in the grand scheme of things, but it is a chunk of the game if you want to engage in, that dating sim is overstating it, but the relationship manager of the game. I will say, and I have not finished it, so maybe it does become increasingly difficult. And Chris, maybe if you've gotten to a point where I'm not, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I do find that the times are not prohibitive for advancement. Oftentimes, to get that fastest time, it's solving the puzzle of the level. Like doing the level the direct way that you see it first will only get you so far, and then you're finding those Mario Kart shortcuts. So like I'll spend a lot of time on a level before I attempt a platinum run. I will sit there and solve it, and then also it shows you a shortcut, and it's like, oh, I just need to do that. And then once I figure that out, the 14-second, Justin run is hopefully within reach.
Well, the game is exploration. The
McElroy.
game,
Sorry,
yeah, the game is so much more exploration than anything else, right? Like, but to be able to do that, you have to do the same level over and over and over and over again. And I fully understand that not being fun for some people, but like the speed, the sort of timestamp isn't the motivating factor of playing it. It's the exploration of getting to that timestamp. Do you understand that sort of delineation?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I dig that. In fact, that's where I give the game the most credit, is it really feels like it's innovating in that regard.
Mhm.
That other games that have asked me to do something quickly or hone it, it didn't feel like there was a game in that other than get better at doing the basic stuff in our game. There's lots of stuff, even in there's Titanfall 2 comes to mind. There's sections in Titanfall 2 where you can go and do and it's just like, hey, how fast can you slide, jump, shoot? Like, how good is your aim? All of the stuff that is sort of the fundamentals of playing the game. It's just asking you to do all of that really, really well, instead of going, there's actually a game here, a different game than the basic mechanics of our game. It's a puzzle. And when you solve that puzzle, as Christian said, that unlocks a shorter time for you. It's not just that you are honing your skill set. It's that you are literally looking for the secret here. And I think that's a really cool innovation and something I think can carry forward into other types of, this can be its own kind of subgenre, I think. And
I agree.
And with the whole, like, have an item, discard an item, those do different things. That feels really innovative too, because it's a wonderful push and pull of, what is the most useful form of this item? What is the most useful implementation of this item? And I think that's a really cool thing to play with as well.
Yeah, which one's the mental key to unlock this puzzle box that will help me, get through this thing?
I honestly wish it was a little bit more freeform in that way, that there wasn't a solution so far as there were numerous solutions. I think the next iteration of this idea can be much more, give the player much more ability to improvise its way through, or discover your own, I can do this, we'll do that. And I'm sure, as I say that, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who actually figure stuff like that out with this game, but I think there could be more room for it to be more sandboxy than it is.
Do you guys do this? I have a question. So I often view games through the lens of Assassin's Creed and Assassin's Creed 2.
We certainly bring that up a lot on this show.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, in the sense
where
of,
it's like,
go ahead.
There's so many games that I play and I'm just like, yes, and now throw money at it and put 50 more people on it, and it will become the thing,
right,
that was in the pitch presentation at the start.
Well, you'll see that a lot. You'll see I feel like there are these games like Loop Hero and Vampire Survivor and these wonderful indie titles where somebody's like, I have a very fresh idea here, some novel take that no one's seen before. And then you'll see bigger budgets and refinement, and somebody will take that and really run with it and do something. I mean, I feel like there's nothing coming to mind right now, but I feel like we've seen that over and over and over again with, these indie titles that have done something really cool and different. And then you see those likes, it's like you just see that over and over again.
But I want to see more indie sequels, man. I'm so bummed that Jonathan Blow went from Braid to The Witness, and we never got to see Braid 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe he would argue that he did that idea.
Yeah, I think
that idea was done in Braid.
Sometimes
He didn't
Fez was made, and
all right. Anyway, we spent a lot of time on Neon White, but I think it deserves it. It's really a really cool, interesting game. But what else is on your playlist, Chris?
Okay, I'm gonna do one more because I know we're going long, so I'm gonna skip. I'm gonna skip Sniper Elite 5. I'm gonna skip Capcom Fighting Collection, but those are both games that I'm playing that are very fun. And I'm gonna talk about Magic the Gathering Arena.
Okay. There may be some who question your skip talk about decision, But no, I'm curious.
But if I'm assuming we're talking long, so I got one more game to talk about.
Go for it.
This is the game that I want to talk about. So
Okay.
I made the worst decision of my life, fellas. I opened a comic book shop bar 4 doors down from the Gylee Games office.
Best decision of my life, though. By the way,
Yeah, it's worked out for you. But so what ruined me is we carry Magic, and so after 10 years of not playing Magic the Gathering, loving Hearthstone, right when it came out and enjoying that, I got sucked way into Magic the Gathering again. Just full on. Yep, I'm going to buy, 2 booster boxes whenever a new set comes out, blah, 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 blah. It's all terrible. And I do it I'm just, paying patronage to my comic book shop.
We had a really good month this
excuse.
month. A really, really good month this month. Thanks to our owner who bought everything. Again.
Yes, I am the number one buyer at the comic book shop. That is true and funny. Cosmic Gorilla, by the way, if you're in Cincinnati. But then I realized I had no one to play with because I don't have any friends. And so the physical game, so I'm like constructing all these decks. It's amazing. I'm like, okay, like I can't wait to do this vampire deck on this person. And, I have a demon deck here and I just want like a hot deck. And I'm like starting to research meta decks more than I should, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, oh, there's no one that wants to play with me. Like literally every person I know is 40 and is like, bro, we did that when we were in middle school. We're moving on. And my kids are like just young enough that they're like Pokemon's still their jam. So I'm in this like really weak spot of like, man, I want to play it every single day. And I have no one to play with. So I'm like, all right, fine. I'll download Magic Arena thinking it's the trash that I played 10 years ago. Like just genuinely thought it was just like the JPEGs of the Magic cards sort of moving around on a spreadsheet primarily. And oh man, they've built an amazing, wonderful game. You have to be willing to spend, a decent chunk of cash at minimum. I highly recommend. They have a battle pass now where like when they have a new season, you're getting a battle pass and you get, I don't know, something like $200 worth of cards by the end of the battle pass. So you're getting a pack sort of every level or every other level, that kind of thing, which is this cool sort of like progression system that's happening in the game. And then you can there's a rank system where like, yeah, I'm going to go, my terrible human person is like, yeah, I want the meta decks. Like, show me what the meta decks are. And they're like, oh, to buy all these cards, you're probably going to spend like $150, which is still cheaper than buying them in physical form. And I'm like, yeah, let's go. And so I buy all the meta decks. And so I start ranking on meta decks. And that's its own sort of like fun, wonderful progression for me, wonderful progression system. Because I'm like, how far can I take this meta deck? And then they have this system, this daily system where like you earn currency every day completing one quest. What I love about it's one quest, one thing you have to do every day, and not 50. There's not 20 challenges. There's not, you have a season, you have 30 challenges you have to complete in the season, blah, blah, blah. One quest. And it's literally like cast 30 red spells. Well, I don't have a red meta deck. So I get to go make a green or a red meta deck or whatever. And so like it flipped. As somebody that's played Magic almost since I started playing when I was 12 years old. I'm 40 now. Do the math. Almost since the start, it changed the way that I play Magic in general. Now I'm making decks for the quests, right? And like with whatever cards they give me, like I'm not worried about buying more or doing meta. I'm like, oh, I have this angel deck. I wonder if I can complete this quest with this angel deck. And so I swear to God, guys, I wake up every single morning. I get my coffee. I take my antidepressants, and then I play whatever the Magic quest is, and it's 15 minutes of my day, and it's some days, not all days, some days it's the highlight of my day. And just if you love card games, if you love Magic, if you've enjoyed Hearthstone but you feel like you're spending too much money there, blah blah blah, man, download it, try it out. They give you a ton of decks for free. You can absolutely play this game free to play. I'm having an absolute blast with it, and I feel like it's forgotten. I feel like a lot of us kind of forgot that it existed, and it's phenomenal. I jump between desktop, iPad, and iPhone. They're all insanely well sort of the UX is incredible between all three of them. Highly recommend it. I know it's a weird recommendation, but man, I'm having so much fun.
I love it, and I love hearing your passion about it. I mean, I think Magic is bigger than it has ever been right now, and yet you're right. Very few people talk about it. With I guess less and less you hear people talk about Hearthstone, but there's a lot of collectible card games. Magic, of course, the granddaddy of them all.
And same Clown Posse still talking about Magic all the time.
I mean, I'm in there. I'm not far from their sort of user base.
How does that work?
That's awesome. That's awesome. Magic the Gathering Arena. You heard it here. Well, not first, but
definitely not first. I mean, it's like I don't know, 10-year-old game.
A 2018, I think it came out.
You probably did hear about it here first, but then also now again, Jeff. I'm sure we talked about it either here on Week and Confirmed. I'm sure we covered it.
I will tell you, Magic the Gathering Online.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Sponsored the Totally Rad show in 2008. Like they sponsored my show in 2008.
I bet you I watched that episode.
Yeah. I mean, by the way, hard for people to remember. Nobody was playing Magic then. It was this thing that like they were trying to get people back into. Now it owns the world, and there's it literally, not to say anything about your store, but it literally keeps stores open.
A liquor keeps my store open. Don't worry.
All right, very very cool story you got there. Christian Spicer, anything else on your playlist other than Neon White?
Oh, my friend. Guess who's ready for the Horizon Forbidden West spoiler talk? This guy.
Did you finish it?
This guy's been playing it in secret, and you hadn't known. Been playing it
Are you
this
going to
whole
finish
time.
it before me? I'm 70 hours in. Well, you finished it?
I rolled those credits, dude. That patch came out. I was like, this is it. Surprise, Jeffrey.
I gotta finish it now. I just did the last. I'm right at the end. I'm on the West Coast, but I just did the last survey drone and black box. Like, did you do all that crap?
I didn't do. Well, you called it crap. You put the words there. I'll take them. I did not do all of that.
I'm doing everything, baby.
Yeah, you will be more hours in than I am. But I will say that this patch they put out, I talked about it before. How like. For me playing here on my, HDR 4K computer kind of setup, like closer to it, before a 60 FPS mode, like everything was shimmery. And I was like, is this just me? I don't like it. This patch they put out fixes all of those. The performance mode at 60 FPS is incredible. It totally fixed all the graphical issues I had with the game. I kind of want to play it on Sony. Send me a PS4 copy. I don't want to buy it, but I want to see it on PS4. I can't believe that it exists on that console. It is stunning, and everything else that I want to say, I feel like I need to save for spoiler chat because
I'm so excited. I didn't know this was happening.
I know.
I got to buckle down and finally finish this game. I've been slow rolling this game because
sounds like a Patreon only podcast, if you ask me.
It might have to be.
I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I said something. I was like, Jeff, are you still playing? Because I was trying to see. I was like, I think I can do this because things pull me away clearly.
I can't believe you finished it before I did.
It had been my, well, everybody's asleep. And I was so nervous that you were gonna, because I kept seeing it on Peek Behind Our Curtain. We have a show doc, which you talk about, and I kept seeing it on your thing. Because I know you're playing it, and I was like, the heat is on.
Wow, you were racing me. I didn't even know I was being raced. I
neon whited you, baby. I found the shortcut.
You're Justin McElroy. Pull off your mask.
I'm on the Justin
McElroy
route
the whole time.
Let's do it.
So this week I'm going to try to finish it because I've been slow rolling. I've been doing everything. I've been doing every side quest, every little thing. Like I said, I've been doing survey drones and black boxes. Like I never do that kind of stuff in games, but I love being in this world so much. Honestly, spoiler for our eventual discussion, which maybe next week, this is in my top games of all time.
Well,
I love it.
spoiler for our favorite game of the year discussion. Unless God of War comes out, I think this is going to be our most divisive year, my friend. I am so indies have captured my heart in such a big way this year that like I can't wait. But I really want to talk about. I can say this generally about the game. This is not a spoiler at all. There were moments in the game. I think the moments that impressed me the most were the moments where I honestly was doing the least and just took in a vista, which I so rare. I found myself playing Horizon Forbidden West. And parts of it where I was the E3 demo person, like I'd walk into an area and like pan to look up at the thing, then the da boo, and then I'd jump into the water just to dive into the water.
It's so incredible, man. And all of the biomes that you get to are so well realized. I mean, it's like you're in the misty redwoods of California, and you're in like sandy desert of Nevada, and you're in the snowy peaks, of Tahoe or whatever it is. It's amazing.
One of my favorite, and this is all I will say. You will not go any more out of me on this. It is one of my favorite takes of Vegas that I've seen in a very long time.
That section, chef's kiss.
On your table that you made.
Yeah.
Where you serve that delicious meal.
It's game to table fresh. All right. I'm glad I'm shocked and delighted that you I thought there was going to be one of those games that I was gonna always say, God, Christian, I wish you'd play that. And now you have. Look at that.
I will disappoint you at our favorites of the year, and I'll be like, it's your fault. You made it 5 games, Jeff. And I have like a demo that I played for a minute. I'll be like, I really liked it.
Well, speaking of demos, great transition. I played a couple of those ID at Xbox demos that they had a whole week of. I played a bunch of them actually, but there's only a couple that I'm going to bring up. The first, because I slagged it and spoke askance of it. It was a punchline of a joke. I figured I might as well actually play Metal Hellsinger. Since it was a free demo, I was like, you know what? I'd made a joke that it's not a game for me, and so maybe I'll give it a chance. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Not a game for me. But I did play the demo on my Xbox.
I've heard great things for people who it is for. I've heard people saying like the music pulls them through and they can't stop playing. Like it is that thing where the music adds that layer of like, this feels, I'm doing what I've been doing for so long, left trigger, right trigger, but this really blends it together with that rhythm music in a fresh way. But I have not played it.
Yeah, I'm surprised to hear that because I didn't feel that. But okay, more power to the people that dig it. And I have actually heard it's pretty popular. It's, I think, by far the most popular of those ID at Xbox demo downloads. I think it got the most. It certainly had the most ratings when I saw it, like by a factor of 10. So it's definitely got an audience. It very much feels like trying to do Doom, like the most recent Dooms, the rebooted Dooms, with that added layer of rhythm game.
Well, there's Doom, which is more of a suspense game, and then there's Dooms, which is the action game, and then
exactly
Dooms 3 we don't talk about. It went through several different developers.
The director of Dooms 3 though went on to make some amazing movies. So. Yeah, I mean, I found it to not be super fun to have to like shoot on the rhythm. Like that didn't add anything to me. When you're playing a game like Doom, which is super kinetic, super fast paced, super fun, I really like that rebooted Doom. And you feel when the music, amps up and you're in it and you're in those arenas and you're like, yeah, you feel like you're in the music. You feel like you're propelled forward by it. But to like have to do that doesn't add fun to me. It doesn't to get off of that and be like, nah, you didn't do very good, or have this like reticule on the center of the screen like Metal Hellsinger does to like show you. I don't know. It just didn't work for me. More power to the people that dig it. But I'm glad I got a demo because cool way to find out. Another game another demo I played that I thought was interesting is a game called Brock the Investigator. I pronounce it that way because he's a alligator, and it's a play on words. See, what do you call detective in a vest, or alligator in a vest, an investigator? whatever. Okay,
Nailed
We got it.
Uh,
Are you a dad? Like, are you actually a dad?
Turns out. So Brock the Investigator, have you guys heard of this game? It's a really interesting concept. They talk about it as the first punch and click game. So it's a 2D side-scrolling game that looks like Saturday morning cartoon. I really dig the aesthetic. Anthropomorphized animals in an animal world, and you play a grizzled detective. Very sort of faux noir, tongue-in-cheek noir. And it's a point-and-click adventure game until you press the Y button, and then it's a side-scrolling brawler. It's both at the same time, anytime you want. So sometimes you're solving puzzles and finding the right item to click on and doing that. And other times you're just pummeling things like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles style. And it's both back. It's not like one level of this and one level of that. It's anytime you want, you toggle back and forth. And sometimes you need to do one thing and sometimes you need to do the other thing. And it happens, you'll solve a puzzle and it'll make a robot come alive and you got to beat up the robot. It's a pretty clever idea. I think it's a fun mashup of two very different things that happen to share a visual style, and so can just transition seamlessly back and forth between each other. The voice acting I found to be a little off-putting, and the game didn't completely click with me into the sense I'm like, I can't wait till this game comes out. I'm going to buy it. I didn't get that sense, but I was impressed by the innovative combination of the two genres. It's a clever thing, and maybe if I played the game beyond the demo, it would get deeper and even more interesting. But I like the big swing that it took. It's like, hey, look, you can do both of these games at once. So that's Brock the Investigator. And that is my playlist. We did get an email to dlcfeedback@gmail.com from somebody that wanted to lend their own review. Alex wrote us saying, hi, I'm a longtime listener, and I recently played a game I think might be worth a try. It's Hard Space Shipbreaker, a game where you are in the not too distant future and need to break apart ships for a mega corporation. Made by Blackbird Interactive, the team behind the upcoming Homeworld 3, it is a truly novel experience. Take the giant mega corporation of a game like Outer Worlds, the physics from Outer Wilds, the visual language of the Homeworld series, the Western space music of StarCraft, and a series of increasingly larger ships to salvage, and you've basically got Hard Space Shipbreaker. The typical gameplay loop consists of you waking up in your ship habitat and heading out to salvage your chosen ship. You owe your corporate overlord about 1.5 billion credits, so you need to salvage as much of the ship as possible. You float in 0G towards your chosen project and need to use a variety of tools such as a cutter and a grappler to slowly remove the outer hull piece by piece. The task is slightly complicated, amongst the other things, by the occasional flammable gas tank and electrical hazards. Once you have cut the points joining parts of the ship together, they list away slightly out of loss of cohesion. You need to sort them into the correct processing area to get paid. It was incredibly satisfying to be left with only the skeleton of a ship and then to cut that into pieces, which I could then also send to be processed. In the end, nothing is left but credits. With all this, since the future is hell, you need to pay for all your repairs, your suit's oxygen, for your consumable tethers and explosives. And if you die, slight spoilers, your corporate masters will clone you and inhabit the copy with all your memories for a substantial fee, of course. It's an excellent game, and it's on Game Pass, so it's worth a try. Kindly, Alex. Thank you for that review, Alex. I actually noticed Hard Space Shipbreaker on Game Pass, and I almost downloaded it, but I never got around to it. Sounds pretty cool and pretty clever. And an example, as we were talking about earlier, of 0G being fun in games.
The P squared in chat says, specifically for you, Jeff, that there is a mode with no timer. There is a timer mode and a no timer mode.
No timers. And all timers is my official political pitch.
as his
I'm
next
only
for me.
thing.
making games with timers.
Vote for me. I'll end all timers. See, I'll end all timers if you vote for me.
The next words out of Jeff's mouth are, and that's the time for the show this week.
Oh yes, time is
Oh
up. on our
god, that would have
show.
been phenomenal. Yeah.
I'll end all timers. Time's up for this episode of DLC. Thanks again to Chris Bergman and Christian Spicer for hanging out with me. Oh, hey, we got parting gifts coming up. Stick around for those. We got a little extra time. Stick around. But thanks to our musical contributors, Patrick L., Sean Madigan, and Zero Star. I'm doing that early actually because I want to say, Chris, tell the folks where they can keep up with you and all the cool things that you are doing with Gylee Games.
Oh man, I mean, yeah. So at Gylee Games on Twitter and Instagram, read our webcomics. I will ask. So I don't think people understand, like, and it'll be a while till they see it, but like, all of this exists because of DLC and you know, and Totally Rad Show and a couple other things. And we can confirm. I DJ'd with Garnett Lee at PAX, by the way. I want to name drop that beautiful, wonderful Swedish now man. But like I you know, as I come on the show once a year ish. I don't think people realize that like it's guided sort of my own life trajectory and the things that I wanted to make. And like, ultimately when the game comes out, it's a culmination of all the work that you guys have done for years and years and years and years. And I hope there's other people out there that are listening that are like, hey, this also inspired me to do things. So I just hope you both know that you're an inspiration for Gylee Games in particular. And yeah, and people can see that on our Twitter and Instagram at Gylee Games or GylieGames.com, Gylee. My kids' names are Guy and Lee. It's a lazy branding exercise, whatever. Beyond that, I did DJ at PAX. I'm going to DJ at PAX West as well. Follow me on mixcloud.com/BergsDJ if you want to hear the mixes that I do. And follow me on Twitter at Chris Bergman. If you're in Cincinnati and you want to play our game early and you want to be a play tester, hit me up. I've done this in the past, made some good friends from it. You know, we're pretty open as far as like people that are passionate about video games and making video games, especially. And yeah, we want to support anyone in our area. So come, like, reach out to me. I will schedule time with you. I promise.
That is awesome, and an incredibly sweet thing for you to say about this show, and I'm glad that, you know, one of us got employment out of it.
Give it time, Jeff. Jeez.
I kid. I'm really excited to see the game when it comes out. I'm excited to hear more and rooting for you every step of the way. You're an awesome guy and a great friend. So
I will send you a build if you're just curious. I'll send you a build.
That is completely up to you. I will play that build. And
okay,
whatever you like.
Give all the feedback to Christian.
The writing sucks.
Well, I'll say this, that Jeff, the reason I've been doing this show for 8 years is I just transcribe everything you say, and I'm like, I wrote this really compelling narrative, and they're like, this sounds like a review of a video game. I'm like, well, we'll change that. Change what he's saying about God of War to your game. It's very captivating.
Why does this guy write about VR so much?
I do think, just to say it, man, I mean, the video game industry is such a intimidating thing, I think, for so many people. And so I come on this show to try to give some level of transparency. And I think you guys do a really good job of giving transparency. And like, I think what people have to remember is everyone making video games is just a person.
Yeah.
Just a person that wanted to do a thing. And so if you want to make video games, you can. It's just figuring it out. Yeah.
If you're a person.
If you're a human being.
Yeah. And
now,
you know what? Unfortunately,
AI will do that. Yeah.
A lot of people, it doesn't seem to be the case that they are.
Yeah.
All right, I'm done with my rant.
No, I
Love you guys.
appreciate that very much, Chris. You're very kind to say all that stuff, and I appreciate your transparency, and it's awesome having you on. We're gonna have you on more often. Christian, what do you got going on this week?
I write a newsletter about video games. I usually do 1 or 2 a month. It's called Let's Chat Games, and you can subscribe to it for free at tinyletter.com/Christian Spicer. I also do videos of this show, and you can check those out as a patron of this show at patreon.com/DLCpod. It's good. People like the video. People have told me, all my friends, all the people are saying the video is nice. People enjoy the video. So check it out.
Hey, I should say it more often, Christian. You're doing a great job on the video. It's not just the video feed. You put a lot of work and energy into it. It looks great. It's got added context of the games that we talk about. There's video of the games. So if you haven't checked out the VOD, please do. Christian's awesome. And hey, maybe consider supporting the show and becoming a patron. You'll get the whole backlog of VOD you can check out by going to patreon.com/DLCpod. You can also get ad-free episodes and an entire bonus show called Paid DLC, which is awesome. Lana,
and this was a perfect
Christian
time
and
to say this is as my 3-person crop. After Chris stopped talking, he slid right out of camera as we're talking about
Christian puts
the
a
video
lot of
that's
energy
produced.
into it. Unfortunately, our
Chris
guests,
just-
not so much.
Just slid. You just rolled a right. You're like, and I'll stop my rant, and it just rolls right out of frame. Jeff, what about you, man? What can you tell us about this week? Unlike last week, where you teased us with, or maybe that was Wednesday's show, where you're like, I don't know if I can talk about this, but I'm talking about it. It was hoops. I'll talk about it.
Oh yeah.
What do you got going on, my friend?
I do other shows. I got the We Have Concerns, which is a comedy science show I do with Anthony Carboni. You may know him as the host of the Thor Red Carpet or Star Wars Celebration. He also hangs out with me, who is neither of those things. And we talk about
yet
science.
handsomer.
Which one?
Weirdly,
Him.
yet handsomer.
Oh,
you.
I think you mean older. Older.
No. More gorgeous?
You're
Sexier?
You're Obi-Wan 10 years from now, Jeff. You look great.
Yeah. Carboni's pretty handsome dude.
He is a handsome dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just says more about you.
I will take it. We Have Concerns is where you find that. Good stuff. We talked about the AI being sentient or not recently. Very fun episode. So check that out. WeHaveConcerns.com. Also the Filmcast, talking about movies and TV shows. We're going to be talking about Thor very soon. This week we are talking about what are we talking about?
Bruno.
We don't talk about Bruno. No. I don't remember what we're talking. Oh no, it's we're talking about the Black Phone this week. Horror movie. So check that out, the Filmcast.
If I may, what I love about the Filmcast is I often go back to episode, like after I watch something. That's one of the things that I go back to regularly to sort of digest. Like what I appreciate about the Filmcast in particular is like I'll consume something and have a ton of thoughts and like wish I could talk to somebody. And again, I don't have friends. So like I have nobody to talk to about it. And so like the Filmcast is my friend group where I can go and listen to their. So there's often times where like I'll go through like people listening, watch a thing, go search if the Filmcast talked about it, because if they did, you're just going to have a great sort of post-mortem on the thing you just consumed.
Awesome.
Especially because Dave's wrong most of the time. And that's there's always one of them you get to yell at, like, oh, it, and then someone else you'll agree with, and they're like, yeah, Devinger gets it. And then he'll say something stupid, and I'm like, oh, there's no one on my side here,
It's so good.
Well, thank
I
you.
yell at it all the time.
I don't know what I did to deserve all this love today. I appreciate you guys. All right. Let's wrap the show up now with our parting gifts.
Hey, give us a suggestion of what to do this week. Give us a parting gift. This is your parting gift.
Chris, do you have a suggestion to help people get through their week?
I do. So as I mentioned, I own a comic book store now, which is a weird feeling. I co-own. Co-own's important. So I'm consuming just a massive amount of comic books.
Awesome.
Some that I want to mention. Gideon Falls, I just finished. It is a horror story. It is so good, so good. I don't want to say anything about it. There's a black barn that's scary. It's phenomenal. Undiscovered Country is super interesting and weird. It's like the kind of weird that I really love. essentially the premise is like in the 1990s, America like walled off anybody else from entering America. And now it's today, it's 30 years later. And like there's 6 diplomats that go in to see what happened to America. And it's phenomenal as well. Also, Saga, geez, if you guys like, possibly one of the best series that exists in real time currently. And then the other one, this one, so I haven't read this, but my wife told me to say this. She works at the comic book shop sometimes. She told me to say this, so I got to say it. She loves her NSFW adult comics. And one of her favorites is called Faithless. And I think it's demons doing stuff together. I don't know. I haven't read it yet. She's forced it upon me. But she told me to suggest that as well. So there's a few comics that can, like, Gideon Falls is easy to find on Amazon, for sure. I know for a fact. I actually got the first volume on Amazon. I don't know, for like $20. Undiscovered Country and Saga. I'm not actually, Saga I know is easy to find too, but like those are some great. Comics aren't superheroes anymore, guys. I don't know if you knew this. But there's a ton of other amazing stories that are happening in comic books. And like, I highly recommend people sort of dive in and figure out what those are for them.
Movies are superheroes. Comics are what movies used to be. No, but yes, again, that's Gideon Falls, Undiscovered Country, Saga, and Faithless.
Yeah. Yep.
But hey, support your friendly local comic book store.
Yeah, buy physical, please. Buy physical, man. I mean, the whole Amazon buying, what is it? Help me out, Christian. I know you know. Comixology?
No comment. I'm not allowed to comment on this. No, I'm not going to get trapped by this.
Where's Sean?
Comixology. Amazon. Comixology has been officially rolled into Amazon. It is not its standalone thing anymore.
And it's very bad. So buy physical. I don't care. Like, buy it from Amazon. I don't care. But go line your shelves with paper comic books, please, because it's so much better.
Yeah. All right, Christian. What is on your parting gift?
I don't think there is a film cast for this. It is that old. But it's a film Without Limits, which came out in 1998. It is Billy Crudup, Donald Sutherland, and it is a Robert Towne directed, also written. He wrote Chinatown, arguably the greatest screenplay of all time, or one of. And this is the story. It's the biopic of Steve Prefontaine, who was a cult sensation distance runner out of Oregon back in the day, Munich Olympic time. And it is the story of him, and also Donald Sutherland plays, my track credential, Bill Bowerman, the co-founder of Nike. And it's kind of, they came up together as Bill Bowerman made a shoe lighter and better than what was around back then. And Steve Prefontaine was a big reason behind that. It is an incredible film. There's another film called Pre, which I don't think is as good, but I fell back into rewatching this as I was watching the morning show on Apple TV Plus. And I love Billy Crudup. I don't know if he has skeletons in his closet. I hope not. I'm not aware of them.
By far the best part of the morning show.
He's the best part of everything he's in. I love him. And this is a younger him, 1998, and he plays an incredible Steve Prefontaine. If you are a runner at all, found it late in life, I think you will find this incredible and inspiring. And if you just like that sports biopic story of someone fighting for good, back in the day when Steve Prefontaine ran, Olympic athletes were not paid. They were exploited in a big way. And he was a big part of the change behind that. It is an incredible story. It's called Without Limits. Is a great film version of it, in my opinion. Donald Sutherland, I forget if he won awards or was nominated. But again, Robert Towne, a phenomenal writer, and it's his script. It's called Without Limits. It's an old film. Hope you love it.
I'm going to do a music recommendation for my parting gift this week. You've heard me and Christian both talk at length about our love for The Midnight. Before I fell in love with The Midnight, my synth retro band of choice, and still one of my favorite bands ever, Stars. If you've not heard of Stars, am I about to blow your mind? A Canadian band, been around many, many years, decades, in fact. They just put out a new album called From Capelton Hill, and it is excellent. They have not lost a step. This is an album that was entirely created during COVID, and so it is melancholy and introspective and beautiful, but it also has soaring dance hooks and just, I mean, it's their style of beautiful melodic synth pop. I love it. I love Stars. Their album Heart is still one of my favorite albums of all time, but their new album From Capelton Hill is exquisite. Check it out. From Capelton Hill by Stars. Stars, a band would be larger, I think, if they had a better SEO in their name. It's hard to find Stars on any, because it'd be like, there's lots of Stars bands. No, this is an amazing band. All right, we also got a listener suggested parting gift. This was sent to us at dlcfeedback@gmail.com. This was sent to us by Lance, who goes by Hot Slag on the Twitch chat. Lance says, Summer Games Done Quick starts on Sunday, or as you're listening to this, started on Sunday. A full week's worth of speed runs. It's always for a great cause. This time around, it's Doctors Without Borders. Tuning in live is always fun because of the great commentaries during the run. In between runs, the hosts give you a feeling of being part of the action. Plus, this year is their first time back as a live event. So it should be that much more entertaining this time. Thanks for all you do, Lance. We are big fans of Games Done Quick. Even as I talked about speed running, not for me, I certainly love watching it. Woo! Speed running is so much fun to watch, and Summer Games Done Quick is always a great time. And as Lance points out, for a great cause. So check it out. It is all week long this week if you're listening to us as this comes out. All right, if you'd like to have your parting gift read on our show, send it to us, dlcfeedback@gmail.com. We love getting those parting gifts from folks. But that's going to do it for this episode of DLC. As I said, thanks again, Chris Bergman and Christian Spicer, for hanging out with me. Thanks to our musical contributors, Patrick L., Sean Madigan, and Zero Star. Our theme song was composed by White Cube, which is Jason Sherry and Christian Spicer. No, Jason Sherry and T. Ryan Arnold, who made that. And we do need to thank our top tier patrons, our hype train patrons. Thank you, patrons. All right. Now's the time to thank our hype train patrons. Jason Novak, Clifton Satterfield, Octavian Ratsiu, Taylor Wiggert, Christian Bravery, Jab, Josh Peak, Peter Olber, Nick, Sleg the Watashimi Henny, Michael Stadler, Jackson, Michael Buck, Travis, Michael Lombardo, Soren Silk, Spiceman Silencer, Albert of the Stuff and Junk Show Podcast, Yick, Zachary White, Jonathan Spiceman Forever Schlepper, Stugas, Nate, Jenny, Kevin Brazel, Ben, Scott Hughes, Neil Shaw, Dan Palmino, Malcolm King, Jimmy Radcliffe, Mark Gowland, Jonathan Putney, Mitchell Ness, Jeff Luxack, Will with 1L Harris, Chris Zacharias, Matt Bradley, Victor Valenzuela, Jonathan Talbert, Cheesy Bob, Scooby Diesel, Adam Denby, Hank Patton, Rob Rickman, Sasan, Dan Flanagan, Riley Knox, Kyle Starr, Anthony Goulas, Michael S., Andy Joyce, Matt Valdez, Relentless Rex, John Cisco, Curtis from Louisville, Aaron Trahan, Chris Bergman. All right, that's going to do it. We'll talk to you next week. Until then, think about what you put out into the world. Make it a better place.